Welcome back, friends and family. Welcome back to another episode of the Highly Emotional Podcast. Today, I have another great thinker. His name is Sean Clayton. Everything that I've seen him post is just mind blowing. And if you're looking for God, if you're looking for light, if you're looking for those right answers, if you're looking to heal from trauma, then you are in the right place. Thank you for coming to the podcast, bro.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. If I'm going back and forth, I got the camera there and I look at
Oh,
the
so you
camera when
got
I'm
two.
talking. Yeah, I
Got
got the
you.
whole thing. And then I'm looking at you here. So, virtual world's always interesting. So,
Your
but yeah, no,
setup
it's
is
great to be
definitely
here.
dope.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I appreciate you.
Yeah, bro. From the content I've been seeing you post, like I told you over the call that we when we talked on the phone, I was like, we need to get this information out there. Like, let's raise the vibration. Let's bring our collective or a collection of people together so that they can experience this conversation, because even though we may be doing things slightly differently, we're still on the same frequency of just trying to teach people how to love and find God within themselves.
Yep.
But today I actually was looking through your story and it just got me empowered, because when things line up, they like it's just synchronicity for me. So I'm like, I gotta touch on it. So I seen your story where you were talking about the Hermetic principles, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very fun. So I did read a little bit of the Kabbalion. I'm an audiobook type of guy. So I did grasp some of it. I'm more familiar with the, what is it, the 12 universal laws.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
I,
what it
I know
is?
those two. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So they're very similar in nature. One thing for me is like when it comes to religion, me having a religious background is that anytime I try to introduce people to like the universal laws, the one that everybody only knows is the law of attraction. But when I try to bring up, the number one law, which is that we are all one, we're all part of, something, excuse me, beyond our experience, something we can even fathom. But when I try to bring it to them, because they're not familiar with it, a lot of times they think that it's something demonic or something evil. And then, like, how I feel about it is that I want to open up the question. I want to say, okay, what is this? What is this value? And how can people who are, new to spirituality, how can they resonate with these type of things? So if you don't mind, like, going in
Yeah.
depth about the Hermetic principles.
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny. It's funny kind of how you put it because everybody got attracted to The Secret a long time ago, right? It's like a law of attraction. I want to attract everything in my life because we're selfish people. And we want what we want, right?
That's facts.
and and so you start hacking this code we live in, because this is like a, to me, I consider it's not a simulation like we would make for ourselves, because that's a simulation of linearity. It's like a simulation that, oh, the game The Sims, it's a video game. It's not that. There's like all of these possibilities that could exist at any given time. And when we understand that there's any possibility that could exist at any given time, we got this free will choice, like in Genesis, like you have the free will choice to choose your path and do what you do. And then what ended up happening is that there was all this code left of how to choose harmoniously, how to choose into what, if your listeners don't know about the quantum, it's like, this quantum space where anything's possible, that it would flow into like divine order. And that was where perfection from the divine or God starts to snap into your personal reality. Okay. And so all the code that we've been living is like right in front of our face, and most of us don't know how to look at it. So the Hermetic laws, there's seven of them. And in each one of those Hermetic laws, when you start thinking about them, it all starts, there's three laws of business, which is why, like, you got the Jay-Z's and the Kanye's doing this thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is there's this Trinity. And in the Trinity is the isness of creation, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, we call it in church. I call it the Father, Mother, Child. Okay, we are the children when the Father and the Mother came together, right? Which is why we had the avatars of our parents that create us.
Facts.
And inside of those, there's three that are laws of business, and there's four that are laws of balance. And if you understand the four that are laws of balance, you're able to run this material world that we're in a very synchronous space, because you're constantly drafting into the divine, your purpose that's built for you. And the three laws of the isness sit up at the top. Now, there's no accident. There's seven laws of the Hermetics. There's 7 days of the week, 7 days
Mm,
of creation, seven chakras of the body, 7 continents, 7 seas, 7 colors of the rainbow. I mean, I can go on 777
Yeah,
forever.
7. Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay. And that 7 is code for us to understand how we work from our individual nature into a space from going from yourself into this we state. Okay. And I'll talk about a little bit that in a minute. But the 7 hermetic principles, I'll break each one of them down. And if you master those, the law of attraction just happens.
Yeah.
If you master those, all these other laws that are kind of ancillary to these 7 laws just start to take place because you're not ever wanting or seeking for anything. You just have it because you know that you are creating from here and here, right? So the brain is, we call it the mind, but the mind is the connection between the brain and the heart. And when you can connect those two things together, all is mind. And so the first law is literally the universe is mental in the mind of the all. So what that means, that's a really funky way of saying it, is that thoughts become things. Everything is of the mind. And there is a collective mind that we all are in, which
Yeah.
is, we can call it that simulation. And then there's your self mind that is like, okay, this is me. And there's another law after that one called the law of correspondence, which is as above, so below. So the way my mind thinks is connected to the mind of the all. All
Mm.
right. And if I start thinking out of what I call harmony or synchrony or in lockstep with divine nature, what'll happen is that correspondence is not as connected, and the divine mind, God mind, all mind, will course correct us, and it will put things in our life to start to shake up our reality because of the law of correspondence to get us to surrender back to it.
Got you. So
Okay.
hold on. I don't mean to cut you off, but you
No,
got
you're
my
good.
mind going. So in a sense, God, right,
Yeah.
will send you something, as some people like for example, some people have this the devil made me do it mind concept, right? But in all actuality, it's purposeful to get you on the journey that you need to be on, because if you surrender truly to the nature of God, you
Yeah.
will truly end up where you deserve to be, because in a sense, if you live in your true path, you
Yeah.
kind of like your higher self already knows who you're going to become and everything that you want, in a sense.
100%.
Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and be careful with words. I always say be careful with
Yeah.
words like higher or
Mm.
anything that stratifies or creates something worse of another. So,
Ah,
all right. So like the
beyond
concept,
duality.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the concept of higher self means that there's a lower self, but the self is just the self that's
Just
tied
mind.
into harmonious self. So there's a harmony self, which is like, hey, I'm in flow. And then there's this disharmonious self, which is I'm out of flow. Both are love. Both are like super amazing connections. And some of us like live in this hella space where we are in disharmony all of our life. And the last breath we take, we figure it out. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But for us to truly alchemize this 3-dimensional reality we live in, we're supposed to remember our connection to spirit sooner, or in the perspective of this life, so that we can draft in the purpose of God intended for us. And when we do that, and we bring in the purpose of God intended for us, then we understand the purpose of God intended for all, and we start to connect back with the divine. And then we go from Sean to all, right? We go from I state to we state. And that's when things get really interesting for us. So to that point, when you have the law of one, like the mind, right? The mind, right? Don't ever just go here
Yeah.
too.
Facts. Because
And
you
then
think
the
with your
process,
heart.
exactly. And then the process of correspondence that allows you to take this great alchemical tool of the brain and then be able to translate it in everything that you see. Then what happens is you have this thing called vibration. Everything is energy, right? And they've proven this out scientifically. So it's not like it's some woo-woo shit. It's like literally like everything is a vibration. So if you take any particle of my body, any matter, any atom, if I chunked out my skin and I go to the deepest level of it at the subatomic level, it's all vibration,
Facts.
right? So 99.9% of the universe is vibration. The rest of it is just some space dust. And then we like attach to that and we start to create ourselves.
Mm.
All right. So that in itself is, the magic. And so when I talk about Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or Father, Mother, Child, the mother is the actual vibration. It's the energy that creates and connects the dots. So your relationship with feminine energy in your life is very much so related to how the vibrations start to manifest themselves in your life, right? The father is like the wisdom and the instruction. It's the manual of being able to look at the past and be able to bring that in. And then the child, right, is the correspondence of how it connects to both of those. Okay. We are the children. We are the son, right? We are the every one of us is a walking Messiah. We just haven't
Mm,
figured it
I
out.
love
Okay.
that.
Yeah, every one of us. Not one of us is chosen different than another. It's when we choose ourselves that we become the one.
Yeah, it's shifting out of that victim mentality. And I always like so for a vast majority of my life, and I touched on this when we had talked, but I had dealt with depression so long to the point where I got on medication and ended up killing myself and all these different things, only for me to eventually get to a state of being depressed for so long that I
Yeah.
realized it was my choice because I was taking on this image. I was saying I'm depressed and living in that. And then that became my reality. But I always say this to everyone is that when it comes to how I healed myself from my depression was to change how I viewed the world and then chose to get myself out of it. I have to save myself. I have to be my own savior. Like a lot of people are waiting for someone to save them or someone to give them the right advice, but
Mhm.
in all actuality, it's truly within you, and you have to shift that mentality of being a victim into
Yes.
being a true hero.
Yeah, 100%. A true creator. Yeah. Creator, hero. Jesus, the whole thing concept around Jesus, and I grew up Christian, so I mean,
Same.
I get it. But the whole concept around Jesus was not to like, hey, this is the guy. It was a guidebook, right? For us to be like, oh, if I do these things and I remember how to walk as that, then I can do that too. And it's just a playbook. It's just code for us to like walk that path. And so that's why like you see the examples of Jesus everywhere. I mean, you know, he's in Islam, like he shows up in Judaism. He shows up everywhere. It's not like he doesn't show up in these other areas. It's just, the example of how we have the ability to follow our lives through some playbook. It's just like here's a guide. And then of course there's limitations that are in that. So we got to seek other answers. But if you follow these hermetic laws, and it's not like, hey, this is I got to go down this new religion. It's just, know that your thoughts become things. Know that you have an accountability to how you think in your mind, to how things show up in your life, and that everything is interconnected. That there's responsibility around all of it, and that's connected through vibration or this feminine energy. And then after that, you got these bottom four laws, and those bottom four laws are literally everything has a rhythm. You'll have a good day and a bad day every time. Like every time the pendulum swings to the left, swings to the right, you get your ass kicked one day, you're winning the next day. It always happens.
Facts.
Right?
Facts.
The next thing is everything has duality. Even in Genesis, like 1, 4, and 5, heavens they created, the light and the dark. They split it, right? Whatever it was, that energy of God, Elohim, split it, right? There's good and bad. There's happy and sad. There's north and south. There's always duality somewhere. There's hot and cold. Like it's everywhere. So it's always going to be that way in our material world. The one, the all, the God, whatever you want to call it, the divine doesn't have a separation. It just created us to remember how to provide balance. So these bottom four laws are all about balance, balancing your rhythm, balancing duality, going back and then saying, okay, well, then there's this thing called karma, right? And we think of karma as like, oh, if I do this, some fucked up shit's going to happen. Well, also, if you do great things are going to happen. You go to the point of cause to understand what the cause is, and then at which point you move into the other side of it, which is the effects just start to take place. That's the law of attraction. So when I sit at the seat of cause, the effects show up in my life, and then boom, you're there, right? But most of us don't understand to get to the cause. Most of us, even we think the cause is not, we think the cause of our life are generally just effects. Like we're like, oh, I need to be rich. That's the cause of my issues. No, you're not receiving the energy of the divine, which is abundance. Therefore, you'll never be rich. And those that are rich even aren't rich because they don't actually receive the energy of the divine. They're just miserable in their own money,
Mm.
right? And then the last one is everything as a gender, like literally everything. Like,
Yo, I be looking at plugs and I'm like, yo, y'all don't realize how everything is a gender. Like whatever you choose and you identify as, like, peace be upon you, right? But when I look at the world, I look at everything, fruits and vegetables and so on and so forth. Everything is a gender. If you look at your sockets, you even looking at the microphone, like this is a
yeah,
gender.
yeah,
So, and to create life. right? I always say this, to create life, you have to have a masculine and femininity. It has to coexist. It's kind of like hot and cold in a sense. Like it
Everything,
has to exist. You're exactly right. I agree.
everything. I mean, this mic is the dick in the air. You know, I mean,
Facts.
I mean, seriously, it is. The
Facts.
air is receiving it and it is sitting here, right? I am like the phallic object inside of the air sitting in front of you, right? I mean, all of this is masculine and feminine. And, you know, I'm being received by the energy around me and it's constructing me. And so all of this, once you understand that, then it's like, okay, what does that mean? You can go rabbit holes deeper. But, you know, when I always start with somebody and they're like, hey, I'm way out of balance. The first thing that you ever start with is gender, because generally there's something off with how, because if you can't bet these balance, it's hard to get the first three right.
So when you're saying gender, are you referring to like trauma, like daddy issues and mommy issues, gender,
All of it,
or okay,
all of it, all of
okay,
it, all of it. So without gender, you can't create anything, right?
facts,
All right. So with gender, you know, man and woman create a child, right? This pen, if I didn't have, you know, without gender, if I took it apart, right, this wouldn't work, right? Because these things have to go in together in order to create the pen. All of it is creation.
facts,
All right. So if that's the case and I'm out of balance, and let's say my relationship with my mother wound is problematic, or for me, you know, I'll say I was like sexually abused, not even like I was sexually abused between 9 and 14. I started to have odd relationships with gender in my life, right? Because I was like, oh, shoot, like my mom wasn't there for me at certain points. I was trying to, you know,
facts.
my grandmother was at the house when these things were happening, and I don't know how to deal with that because this masculine person in my life was now abusing me. So I have all this like gender dislocation that took place in my life between 9 and 14. So you grow up, you deal with that, and you're like, well, I don't know how to manage this anymore. And so then you carry that trauma in order to then manipulate life because that's what kept you safe. Is once you are able to absolve that trauma with whoever it was, whatever that gender disassociation was, you figured out how to keep yourself safe as a child. So the childhood trauma issues that you carry forth in life, now take it out there, and then all of a sudden, oh well, you know, for instance, like I literally just had a conversation where, you know, there were like a few things with my wife where I'm like, I didn't feel confident or comfortable bringing her issues that I had, right? Or like I'm having certain conversations, you know, with my son's, my son's mother, right? Which isn't my wife. And, you know, I'm like, oh, well, if I come off this way and I show this to my wife, she's not going to see me as being like the strong, tough, masculine guy because what I'm doing is I'm coming off and saying, hey, I don't want to deal with her shit. So I'm just disassociating from it. This is my ex-wife, right? My son's mother. And I don't want to deal with it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm actually just kind of like leaving it to the side. Now, I thought I had solved like all my trauma issues, right? But for me not dealing with that properly, right? All of a sudden something flares up. My my wife is like, she's a sage. Like she sees everything. She's an oracle. Like she knows shit before it ever comes, right?
Facts. I got one of those too. It's so
Yeah,
creepy,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. So like whenever something's off, or like I had a conversation that I didn't fully divulge, okay, she's gonna come at me and be like, what's going on? And then I'm like, well, I didn't want to tell you this at the time because you were dealing with some stuff and so on and so forth. Well, that's me not being able to stand in my masculinity,
Mm,
but being able to then help her feel safe, which then at which point create other issues because then that goes back into how I used to show up in the world with her in our relationship a long time ago, right? And all of this stuff starts to collapse itself in this like now I'm out of harmony. What happens when I'm out of harmony? The world starts to show up in chaos. Timelines get off, space gets off,
yeah.
and then is it possible for me to even, no matter what I think, I'm out of harmony with the balance of my life. No matter how much I stay in this place of rhythm selfishly, I'm not self-loving, so I'm not giving it back to her.
So you would say that you not stepping into your truth created chaos into your reality.
100%. 100%. And it's so simple to step into it. Oftentimes we are like, we don't want to deal with it at that moment. And so you're not saying, okay, I don't want to be true to this. I just don't want to hurt that person right now. I don't want them to feel that right now, but it's not up to them to, it's not up to me to be the
How
arbiter
they feel.
of how they
Yeah.
feel. Right.
That's
Right.
100% right. Yeah.
Right. And then that's the karma thing. So then let's just see how these laws work out. So then it's like, okay, now associated with the cause and effect is I'm not standing in the energy of the divine, the abundance of truth, of knowing myself, of being worthy. Therefore, I'm not giving it to somebody immediately.
Mm,
And if I know myself to be so true, great example of Christ, Christ knew himself so well that, hey, I could tell you that I'm not this thing. I could tell you that I don't believe these things, and it will save my life and not get me slammed to a cross, right? But knew itself so true that he was okay being pinned to a cross. That's the message for us. That's the point of the passion, right? Of knowing yourself so well, you're willing to die for it. And our problems are, I don't want my wife to be upset with me, right?
Facts.
I don't I don't want my boss to get frustrated. I don't want to lose my job by standing in my truth. I don't want I don't want my teacher to get upset with me and give me a bad grade because I didn't finish my homework because you know what, I was high, right? Whatever,
Facts,
whatever it
facts,
is.
facts.
Just go be honest and see what happens and then see how the world rallies around you in that truth. And then also the accountability they give you when you are out of balance, because that's the course correcting mechanism of the energy in our life, of the people we attract when we start to stand in that truth.
No, that's yeah, that's deep. Like we have to step in our truth. I became that way too. Is that I used to be a very bad liar, and I got baby mama issues too. I got
Yeah.
two baby mamas and a wife, so I already know how that is. But a lot of times, I would catch myself lying to pretty much like you said, like protect somebody, but
Yeah.
then a lot of times it would internalize within me, and then something would pop up, and then I
Yeah.
would have to force myself to tell the truth after lying so much.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like when we don't step into our truth, our world begins to crumble. But then also I've learned that now I can create my own reality based upon living directly in my truth. Everything,
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't believe it. So I have an older brother. I go back and forth with it all the time. And I tell him, I'm like, when we don't talk, you don't exist in my reality. And he's like, there's only one reality. And I said, yeah, but based upon your experience, that's your one reality. For me, there's multiple realities. There's multiple versions of me. There's multiple ways and perspectives to look at the world. So reality for me may not be the same reality for you. And I've learned to kind of like shift my reality. So like it's gonna sound crazy, but I do different meditations. So I've done quantum leaps where I literally picked the avatar that I wanted to be for 2 years. And some people may not feel that this is true, but when I seen the outcome, when I said, okay, during this meditation, I said, all right, well, I want to be the version of myself that's always in the gym. Next thing I know, I was in the gym. That became my reality. I was at the
Yeah.
gym
Yeah.
almost every day. But then I was like, all right, I'm done with being that avatar. Now I want to be something else. But people don't believe in this. I think a lot of times the reason why people don't believe in it is because they don't have the power of seeing beyond themselves, even beyond that duality that we were talking about. I think if you can see beyond the duality and see that everything has to play a major role, I think
Yep.
then you can learn how to control your reality by being in control of your living in your truth, basically.
100%. 100%. And it's, one thing I will say is that I love how you put that, because like I even tell like my son this. I'm like, whenever you are not around me, you're either alive or dead.
Facts. It sounds
Seriously,
so
my parents.
crazy.
It's not crazy. Like my parents are that way. Like you don't know. Like until you call them in and you observe them into reality, they don't exist. We trust that they exist, and that's the cool thing about collective observation is that like once we start to say, okay, well, this water bottle on my desk actually exists, and you didn't know it was there before it was there, so to you it didn't exist, right?
That's facts.
Until I called it in,
Now,
right?
now it's real because I just seen it. I just
Right.
seen you.
Right.
Yeah,
And now
facts.
you trust that it's still there, even though it's not there because you can't see it. And if I'm looking at the screen and I have no peripheral vision, it's still not there. It's kind
Facts.
of crazy. But that's the power of the mind, is that the opportunity to observe. And what we get lost in is because the mind is so powerful. And this is not this mind, it's the mind and the heart. And that's what I want to always reinforce with people. It's the brain and the heart that creates the mind, is that we, we can collectively observe anything, but most of us get lost in the affirmation of the collective observation. So I'm going to back that up a little bit. The collective observation is the world outside of you that's affirming that what you say is true. So the example is this water bottle we both agree exists, right? Your perspective on it right now is much different than mine, right?
True.
Mine is the back of the bottle where I don't see the shape on the front of the bottle. Yours is the front of the bottle where you see the front of the bottle because you're looking through the camera, right?
Yeah.
Two totally different perspectives, right? I can see this label over here that you can't even see.
True.
So if I were to describe this bottle to you right now, from my perspective, it looks a specific way. You describe it, it looks another way. So what I need is a collective set of individuals that wrap all the way around this bottle to be able to observe it into what it is. But what does the bottle know? The bottle knows itself. The bottle knows it has a sticker over here. The bottle knows it has a little crystal inside of it. The bottle knows it has this on top of it. It knows how much water's inside of it. It knows everything about itself. So what we often do is we look at everybody else and we say, hey, what do you think of me? And you're getting all these piecemeal stories, and the one you like the most is the one you lean into.
Yep. That's
Okay.
facts.
And that's the crazy thing, like when you go to psychics or somebody to coach or somebody to tell you about your life, is they give you a perspective of you based on their thing, based on how they see you, which is only some, even therapists, which is only so limited. And it's this little bit of self that is true from this perspective, and also gathered up with all their shit. Okay. And they don't know themselves. So now they're looking at you based on what they don't know about them, forecasting their trauma on you because you showed up as a person in their life that is like whatever to them, to have this karmic release. You don't know yourself, and you don't know how much water's in your bottle, where your labels are, even though you do, but you won't admit to it.
Mm.
And then at which point, none of us are actually doing the work to be able to actually forecast out into the world what we are. And then the cool thing is when you do know yourself and somebody tells you about yourself, you're like, you know what, you're right. And the amount of responsibility you take in somebody saying, man, that sticker is really fucked up. You're like, you know what, you're right. That sticker is fucked up. And that's actually tied to my mom and daddy issues. And I'm
Facts.
going to fix that. Right.
Facts.
And that was even my thing today. My wife was sitting there talking and she's like, you know what, this is a thing about you I don't like. You know what, you're right. And instead of me fighting and being like, here's all my reasons and excuses and so on and so forth, it's like, you're right. And I need to fix that. Or I need to learn how to love that differently. I need to figure out where it came from so that I can start to make those changes within myself.
That's 100%. Like I'm on page with you. That's
Yeah.
that's shadow work. That's how I unlocked certain things within my like in my trauma or within my space. I realized like I would ask myself like, why am I getting this way? When was the first time like
Yeah.
this ever happened? And chances are it comes from your mom and dad. Like I hate like I'm an extremist, so I say extreme things. Like I said on my last one of my last episodes, I was like, fuck your parents, right? And the reason why, it
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but the reason why is because your identity becomes what your parents put on you. And they did
Mhm.
their best. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they
Oh, yeah.
suffered from as a child, they did their best, whether they did horrible to you or not. Just forgive them and love them and accept them. But you have to go back and say, okay, when was the first time this happened? Because this is how I addressed it. Like within my subconscious, I sat in meditation, I went back and I said, when was the first time this happened? I remember it the earliest time I can remember. And I sat there and I looked at the child version of myself and I said, I love you. I'm sorry that you had to deal with this. I'm sorry
Mhm.
that you accepted this. I forgive me, right? I forgive me. And then after I forgive myself, then I can move forward and forgive my parents. But people mostly think that you got to just forgive the person. A lot of times you can't forgive the person until you forgive yourself.
Right. Right. No, 100%. 100%. And forgiveness, forgiveness is never for that person. The forgiveness is for you to get back in harmony with the divine energy that created you and that experience.
Mm.
And when you do that because you see the love in all of it. You see the love in the can I see the love in me being sexually abused as a youth? 100%. It sounds fucked up,
It
but I
sounds
see it
crazy, yeah.
now. Yeah, but I see it now. I could see the love in being formerly incarcerated and spending 3 years in prison.
Shit.
I could see the love in trying to take my life, 4 times. I mean, literally, I've done the whole thing. I see the love in it, but it doesn't mean I have to go. Like, one thing I'm always careful about with people is you don't have to keep cycling the story of your trauma, right?
Mm.
You have to be there to be the hero, right? Or the guide to help people find the hero within themselves. So I'm the guide to find, hey, there's people that are coming at me. I'm suicidal. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's work through
Facts.
that really quickly. Where's the gift in that feeling you have right now? Where do you feel it in your body? And they're like, well, what do you mean? How do I see the gift in this? And I'm like, well, if you can't see the gift in it, that means that you're stuck in a story that's not your story.
You're gonna be that victim.
Right, right. So let's start writing your story. All right. Let's start writing, oh, I created these things to love myself for these 5 reasons. Oh, okay. It doesn't have to necessarily be a linear construct. It can be one that's a future you. right? It doesn't have to be, oh, okay, well, all of this stuff happened in my life, and then now I'm here and I'm homeless, I'm broke, I'm, you know, cracked out, whatever. It doesn't matter what you are. I'm on something's not right in my life right now. I just lost my wife, my girlfriend, whoever. All of that's a gift. Every damn thing that's ever happened to you is a gift.
That's I agree 100%. I had to actually explain that to my one of my oldest daughters. I had to
Yeah.
explain to her, I was like, everything that I went through, whether it was with your mom, whether it was when I was molested when I was a child, whether it was when I was abused, like all these different things. And she was like, I was like, I'm thankful. And she was like, how can you say that you're thankful? Like, I don't understand that. And I said, this is the reason how or this is the way that I changed my perspective. I'm thankful
Yeah.
because it brought awareness in my world, in my reality. Not only am I thankful for that, but I'm also thankful the fact that it happened to me. So therefore, I can protect you by bringing awareness to your life. Like,
Yeah. Cool.
and I told her the thing about it is that when it comes to my trauma now, the things that I went through, the baby mama drama, me being depressed, doing drugs, all these different things, I'm thankful for it because now I'm here as an example for my kids to see this and be like, yo, my dad went through this. Dad, you know, when
Yeah.
you went through this, how did you deal with it? Da, 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 da. Like all these things, because at the end of the day, if I can be the person who has to go through it and make sure that nobody else goes through it, then I'm gonna do it every time. That's kind of the scary thing about being like being a father, right? Like being a
Yeah.
dad, and I talk about this all the time. Being a dad, I never realized how scary it was until I had my son and I got married. Because now that I'm married and I got a son, one, if being a husband means that I got to answer the door if there's ever any type of violence or anyone trying to attack my house. Two,
Yeah.
having a son, I got to teach him my values of a man. Right? When people talk about the values of a man, they always think that it's all about masculine and being this and being
Mhm.
that. No, I got to tell my son when I'm scared. I got to tell my son when I'm wrong. I got to love my son, hug my son, kiss my son, tell him he's beautiful because a lot of us, especially cultured or minorities, a lot of us, we don't have dads in our house that taught us how to love or
Yeah.
receive love from a man. We always thought, oh, it's gay if you kiss your son or any of this. Like it's not. These are constructs that's been put on us by people who were affected by trauma also. So a lot of times we have to learn all this, bro, and we have to be the example. We have to back to what you said. You said you can't be the victim, but you gotta in a sense you gotta be thankful that it happened to you.
Oh yeah, you just got to be. I mean, I always ask to tell people, you got to find every reason why you created it to love yourself.
Oh, the blessing. There you go. Or the
Yeah, yeah,
love
yeah,
in it, finding the
yeah,
love
yeah,
in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's the endless gratitude, endless blessing. It's all is it's all perfect. And and one thing I'll say is, people like, hey, is the shadow work, shadow work. And we've been taught to be afraid of our shadow
Facts.
instead of to love our shadow. So like what I've started to do is just make a different framework for people to say, okay, like, look, you dug some really deep holes. Like here's an example of a picture, right? So hold it. I don't know if it's gonna come in like
There
that.
you
All
go.
right.
There you go. All
All right.
right.
This picture right here, you see how, if I were to build a building, I got to dig a really deep hole to set a foundation for a tall building.
Facts.
All right. That's my trauma. I dug such a fucking hole that I made a massive, massive space for me, right? Most people are like, I don't want to feel it. So I'm going to dig this one right here and I'm going to have a tiny building and I'm going to think that's my life, right? So those of us that have gone through the hell, that have gone through it, that have gone through the abuse, we have like these spiritual bodies that have the ability and the capacity to create realities like none other. And we can have a lot of tenants come into our building to see what that looks like. And we can hold space differently, not better, but differently than other people so that they can find, hey, I can actually go out and I can either help you build your building to be better, which is cool because that's the whole thing around service and servitude. And inside of that, they build communities inside of the building that make the building stronger. So there's those of us out there that will create, like, not every one of us like has, the same gifts. We all have different gifts. People are going to think different. This is why we have the different perspectives. But once we get like, hey, inside of it, we start to then snap all this stuff together. We start to create these really awesome skyscrapers. We got to go hella deep to build that skyscraper. And that instead of we calling it, and we can call it shadow work, And as the people start to understand what that means and it's all love, that's great. But in the meantime, it's like you gave yourself a hell of a gift. Your trauma was your greatest gift.
Mhm.
And now that you know that, let's go build something on top of that.
So let me ask you a question. When did this shift for you? Like how long ago did you have the switch where you was like, all right, I'm no longer being this fucking victim. I'm about to body my shit and I'm gonna own up to it and this is who I am. Like, how did you become this person that you are now?
Man, I'll say this, I'm always becoming and I'm always fallible. I'm always broken, right?
Facts.
I'll never pretend like I figured it all out. But this whole, I mean, I could say this process started from the day I was born. but
Absolutely. That's so
but
cliche.
but the real, I'd say the biggest shift in my life is when I met my wife and she opened up the door of meditation to me.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is something different, right? I didn't know what it meant. It led me into Dr. Joe Dispenza, it led me into Sadhguru, led me into
Sadhguru is my
meditation.
guy. I love him.
Yeah, I love him. I love him. So it led me down all these roads. And for we've been together 6 years now. For 3 of those years, I was figuring it out and definitely not a man of integrity. I was a man of intention. We can talk about what that means differently in a minute. But I had all the intention, I had no integrity. And then I started to develop the integrity, but then I'm like, well, this doesn't feel good when she calls me out. So then we ended up going on some plant medicine journeys. And then I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go do this stuff. And then
Which ones you do?
I did them all, man. I
You
mean,
did ayahuasca?
I've done ayahuasca, I've done
Oh,
iboga, I've done
oh man.
all the ketamine, I've done toad, I've done,
I'm trying to.
bro, it was unreal. But I wasn't integrated at the time, so I became this like spiritual asshole. Built out like a little, mini group cult in LA. We were all running around like, acting like we got it together. And she was like, she was out. She was like, I don't want to deal with you anymore. And so that year, I'm like chasing after the external affirmation. Still, I know all this knowledge. Like, I mean, I could recite anything, right? But it wasn't integrated. And so I had all this knowledge. I could tell people a bunch of stuff, but I was full of shit. And then I did this iboga journey and it paralyzed me to the ground for like 36 hours, which is it forces you to deal with your trauma and find the love in it.
Oh my God.
Bro, it's an African root.
It sounds
Google it.
beautiful, but
Oh,
yeah.
it's gorgeous. But it's hard. And I remember when I got up, I was like, okay, it's my feminine receivership. It's me being able to love anybody. And she was like a vision in my mind, like over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, okay, I got to fix this. So I finally went back to her and I'm like, hey, can we work this thing out? She was like, screw you. And it took me a while, but as I started to really integrate my spiritual journey, she was like, okay, I get it. And then we got engaged last year. We got married this year. I started doing the social media, just like talking about it. You
Congrats, by
know,
the way.
yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you. And she's been literally the greatest gift of my life outside of the gift of me giving life to myself. That that covenant of us coming together really allowed me to be able to see the world differently and be a true person of integrity instead of just like, okay, I know all this stuff. Because a lot of the gurus out there, they know a bunch of stuff. I could have probably not talked like this. People would have been like, this is not authentic. And that's what I used to get a lot of. And you kind of sort of self-select the people you want, which is why you have these little mini cults that pop up.
Yeah.
And but being able to create a mass movement that is a cultural movement. I know we talked about this the other day, where it is a cult movement, but it's everybody moving at once.
Yeah.
And it's not a separate thing where I'm self-selecting people that affirm me and you just show up naked and vulnerable and they love you anyway and you love them anyway. And it's no matter who it is, it's always love. And if you find a person that is resisting you, what's the work I got to do on me in order to figure out how I fall back in love with them and them back with me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, because that had me thinking about have you heard of narrow knowledge yet?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know Nero. Yeah, yeah.
Bro,
Me
he
and
got some gems. I'm trying to connect with him, but he was saying
yeah.
something about how people wear the mask. He was talking about pretty much how you control people in your reality. And he was saying that people wear a mask based upon the mask that you wore to them. So in that sense, yeah. So in that sense that when someone is resistant to you, it's based upon you being resistant to them in a sense. It's kind of like a double mirror, I guess. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Oh yeah. 100%. I mean, and within that, one thing I always say, there is no they. Okay.
It's we,
So yeah, it's always me.
me.
And
There
the
you go.
responsibility of me is to incorporate the we. Okay. So the mask that somebody else is wearing is a mask I put on them to perceive me
Hmm.
based on if we understand everything is all energy and everything is all one, then I essentially, through my lack of vulnerability and authenticity, I forecast that on them. There is no time. So they snap into reality. They look at me through their mask. They see me a certain way based on I hold my integrity. And it's up to me to take my mask off so that they can see me and we start merging together back as
And then
one.
they take their mask off also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
nah, that's deep. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
deep as hell.
Yeah. So it's never them. And every time we say it's them, we lose ourselves.
Bro, you dropping bars, bro. You dropping bar. Nah, but that's facts because I was telling my wife about this the other day. Like I said, this journey is never ending. No matter where you're at, it's all a journey. Whether you are just not waking or you still sleep or whatever, it's all the journey. But I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm gonna stop saying that I don't like someone. I'm gonna stop being that way because the moment that I have an opinion on someone is the
Yeah.
moment that I'm the one who's wearing the mask. I'm the one who made this person the way that they are in my
Yeah.
reality. So at that point, I gotta change how and then ask myself, okay, what is it about this person that's bothering me? Because, like Nero said, he was like, then chances are that's something about you that bothers yourself.
Oh, 100%.
So,
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's deep. Yeah,
Yeah. It's real.
the whole cult thing though, when I be using these words, a lot of times, like I'll tell people, I'm like, I want to start a cult, but when I'm saying the cult thing, it's not the terms that the world has ran with it. I want to
Yeah.
start a culture or create this bigger space where every conversation, every engagement that we have is questioning you more to look within yourself. No idolizing me, no idolizing you, but looking you as a place that I can receive information to dive even deeper within myself. Back to what you said is like just digging down into that foundation to see, okay, why am I this way? Why does this affect me? Well, all these different things. And that's why I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I feel that spirituality is, in a sense, the new take on religion, which is combining all religions and then creating a space of where you can find God within you. At least that's my take on it.
100%. Yeah. And what I'll say to back that up is when we create a cult out of convenience, that's the issue. When you create a movement that is around a collective we that is culturally relevant, you got to be hella vulnerable, hella authentic, because it's not going, you'll end up hitting walls where it just stops right here. And I don't care how good you are at your delivery, how badass your videos are, how good the music is. All of a sudden, you hit a wall and then it stops, right? I mean, I'm gonna, we're gonna talk Kanye here for a second. Kanye, like this dude, you know, I mean, when you listen to some of his stuff he talks about, dude was deep. I mean,
Yeah, I like Kanye, but go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, I mean, he got it, but then eventually it got to the point, and he kept expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. It got to the point where it hit something
Mhm.
that was not resolved within him. Okay. And when that didn't resolve, it shattered this whole thing down.
That's
Now, the cool
facts.
thing about Kanye is he can build it back really quickly again because he knows his capacity. So once he solves that, whatever that is, I'm not going to claim what it is.
Yeah,
Whenever he
facts.
solves that thing, okay, then that thing, boom, he goes wider and it gets bigger again. But what I feel like happens to Michael Jackson was like hella connected. Like, I mean, like he was like divinely tuned in. Prince, not
Yeah.
divinely tuned in. I mean, you see it in their lyrics, how they show up and all this other stuff. They hit this wall and then it just collapses everything. Right. And you wonder, like, oh, they just faded. They got a problem. They got this, they got that. No, it's an energetic disconnect. And the cool thing is that those that are still alive right now that had a gift, We all have the gift, but those that have this energetic, culturally relevant gift that can move humanity, that are not stuck in the ego, that are calling out truth, that are saying things that are challenging the framework of what I'm calling this. You know about Ahriman and all this? I will talk about it in a second.
Go ahead.
That are challenging material reality as it being God, right? And moving in that energetic space, those individuals are giving us doors for us to shift culture faster and shift humanity faster than if we were to do it through, you know, what I'm calling is the unculturally relevant way. Like, for instance, this Universal One book, right, by Walter Russell. Great book. This is all the stuff Terrence Howard talks about. Okay. And when he talks about some other stuff too, but a lot of his stuff is in here. If you read this book, it's
I'm
putting
about to
everybody to sleep.
I'm about to go ahead and just add that to my
Yeah,
collection.
read it. Read it. Great book, right? Great book, but it will put your ass to sleep. And if I were to go and be like, hey, let me talk about the videos about this, and I put it on YouTube and Instagram, nobody's going to listen to that.
Facts. Facts.
Okay. But if I get that put in a song and all of a sudden I make a cool ass video about it and I can like bring it into reality, and now you have some hats that are snapping into some of the, the geometry that's inside of that, you're like, oh, all right, I get this. And then you actually start to rock that. And now you're programming the matrix based on just how you show up in the world. Right. Like even me wearing like this Hebrew letter for life, me wearing this razor blade around my neck. These are all very much so spiritual things that are like tuning people in when they see it all the time. Is very intentional.
They're like, what
You
does that mean? Yeah.
know? Right. Or, flower life here, or I've got the freaking, this whole,
Oh yeah.
philosopher's stone. Like it's all very intentional.
Wait. Philosopher's Stone. Wait, like Full Metal Alchemist Philosopher's Stone, or you didn't watch anime?
I haven't watched anime, but I know what you're talking about. But
Okay,
yeah, it's like
okay.
it's like alchemy, the alchemy philosopher's stone.
Yeah, got you.
Right. Bro, and I came up with this, like I had never seen this before. And all of a sudden I'm just like drawing stuff on a thing, and then I get it tattooed on my body. And people are like, you know what that is? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's crazy.
Right. And but we got to make it culturally relevant. And then we also have to give people the space that when they fall down to get back up again, and to give them the compassion to actually start breaking through their trauma so they can remember what they are. And then, when people started judging Kanye, I got to get away from him. I'm like, hey, I want to go connect with this guy.
Facts. I
Yeah.
felt the same way, dude.
Yeah.
That's the issue with the culture that bothers me a lot, is like with the culture is that when we see someone vulnerable, and I thought it was powerful because when I seen Kanye say something about like he thought about aborting his daughter and he started crying, I was like, the world is making fun of him, but y'all don't understand the level of empathy that he felt off of just having that thought, because like bro, it's his child, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he loves his child so much that he felt like he did a disservice by thinking about
Yeah.
aborting her, and like that level of empathy, like people think that it's a flaw, and it's not a flaw. Like even I say it all the time, like I have to live my truth. I've been in abusive relationships, I've been in so
Yeah.
many weird situations that I did things that I wasn't proud of, but I'm gonna speak the truth because that's not who I am today. That's not
Yeah.
who I'm today. Who I am today is not gonna be who I am tomorrow. I'm constantly shifting. So at that point, like, yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that here's the kicker. We are not even we are supposed to be telepathic people. When I really know myself, I don't mind if somebody reads my mind. Okay. So Kanye even sharing that is just like, here's a I'm gonna publicly allow you to venture into my soul and see how fucked off and beautiful my mind is. Who's gonna hold that? Who's gonna hold that with love and be like, I get it. I've thought that too. Shit. I thought about like at times when, like I remember when my son was like on the way and like his mother was, pregnant with him. I was just like, I don't want this. I
It's
was like,
crazy as fuck.
I was like, I don't see like being like a dad. Like there were times I thought crazy. I mean, this times, like I'm sitting in front of somebody. I mean, and this is not like old. Like you'll see somebody and it's like, man, I don't like what they're saying. I just want to punch them. We don't
Facts.
say it out loud because it would be rude, but it would be
Yeah.
like, well, why do you want to punch them? Like, what is it inside of you that has you feel that? Like, why is it that you are enraged with the thing that they're saying, and then what is it about me that's creating that? And that's the stuff that like we got to start working on so that we could become vulnerable enough that if we do have that thought, the other person's like, oh, I see why they created that thought. There's a part of me and me that holds that too. And now let me actually give them back what they need in order to make it feel like they don't want to punch me. Right? Whatever that little thing is, whatever it is that we can all like truly rally around, the vulnerability and the authenticity of self will allow us to heal each other. That's the fun part.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be the shift of the culture, bro. The
Yeah.
culture, everyone hops on these trends of, politics and all this other BS, but I think that once it finally happens. I think once it becomes like you have that new age like fake wokeism. I don't like the terms woke. I say spiritually conscious or consciously aware, right?
Yeah.
But I feel that when something finally happens in the tear down of the old way that we view things, because we give power to all these things outside of us. But
Yeah.
once something comes along and empowers us to start thinking about us like internally, right? I think
Yep.
that's when we'll finally get into that shift, but something has to happen in these conversations, no matter whether it's two people or 2 million people seeing this information, if you affect one person, you're changing the vibration, you're changing and raising the
Everything.
frequency. That's
Mm.
like that's the one thing about music is like I never got to a Drake standpoint in the music space, but I've been doing music my whole entire life. And every time that I thought that I was gonna quit music because I didn't get big as Drake, someone would message me and be like, "Hey, this song saved my life. I
Boom. Yeah.
needed this." And I was like, okay, so I can't stop doing this. I have to do it. And that shifted my to where I'm at now, where I'm like, okay, with this speaking my truth, talking about my own journey of spiritual awakening and everything that I went through, even if I just save one person, it's good enough for me
Yeah.
because that one person could save a million. So,
Yeah. And in the process of doing it, you're saving yourself.
ooh,
Yeah. When you save yourself, that correspondence of saving yourself and continuing to go deeper and deeper and deeper will save everybody. We are on a collective ascension process. We are all collectively becoming the Messiah. All of us.
we
And when
are
we
the
save
Messiah.
ourselves, yeah. And when we all do the work, we all heal, we all rise. And it might be me touching one and you touching a million. It doesn't matter the number is an illusion. The whole thing is an illusion, right?
That's bars.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
And we and we can go deeper on what that means, but it's all an illusion to allow us to remember to go deeper within. The bigger the illusion gets, the stiller you have to be. It's real easy for me to be really still in a room with one person. It's real challenging for me to be really still and know myself in a stadium of 10,000. It's really even more challenging for me to be under the spotlight of millions of people and constantly having that observation looking at me and saying, do I know myself so well that no matter what they say about me, I can actually be me? And that is, that's everything. So, I mean, we were talking about, I'll say two more things I want to talk about. The Aramon thing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna tell you.
Okay. And then like what I would consider is the most profound hack in order to overcome trauma that I have ever experienced.
Let's do it.
That's like one move. Okay. So so the Aramon thing, there's you know who Carl Jung is?
Young.
Yeah. So he was
It
like
sounds
this,
so familiar. Is he Asian?
he's not Asian. He's like
Okay,
a
okay.
philosopher from not philosophy, he was like a psychiatrist, Dr. Jung, Jung. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've
Yeah.
heard of him.
And Jung had all these different principles, and he went in his later days, he went super deep into spirituality after he was witnessing everybody's minds, right?
Yeah, I heard about this
He
guy.
he had this book that he wrote. This is how I stumbled into it, but it goes deeper because it's also in Rudolf Steiner's work, if you know anything about him. So Rudolf Steiner, he was like a late stage Rosicrucian. He essentially founded the Waldorf School, Montessori schools, things like that. Really brilliant individual. And both of them had this whole thing about this concept of abraxas. Okay. And I ran into this abraxas thing, which is the symbol, if you see it, It looks like this kind of like weird devilish thing that's holding all this stuff together. And
I
they
can see
call
it.
Abraxas, it's nuts, Abraxus. So Abraxas or Abraxas is one of the two. Um, they call it the god
Wow.
of the, you've probably seen this before. I'm
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah. And so Abraxas is they call the god of the threshold. And what Abraxas did is Abraxas would sit in the middle and let me see if I can draw this out. But it would sit in the middle and it was this energy that surrounded all of the material matter of what we witness in life. And that there was this God that sat outside of it. And the God that sat outside of it was the light and the ether and the air. And then everything material inside of it was like how the world shows up in like physical form. Okay. And inside of, and so you have Abraxas, that's this god of the threshold. And inside of it, you have this god called Ahriman. Okay. This goes like way back. Like you can go like look further back. And there's this god called Ahriman,
How you spell it?
A-R, Arihman, Ahriman, Ahriman, something like that.
Wait, one more time. A-H.
A-H, here, I'm gonna Google it real quick. Ahriman. I think it's Ahriman. You see it?
Mm, hold on. Let me make sure. This.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that, yeah, Ahriman.
All right, cool.
Ahriman, yeah.
A-H-R.
Iman.
Yep, I got it.
And the counterpart to Ahriman is Lucifer. They're both, we would consider them devils,
Hmm.
right? You never heard of Ahriman, you've heard of Lucifer, right?
Yeah. I
Lucifer
heard
means,
multiple versions of Lucifer. There's
okay,
one
what does
being
Lucifer
made
mean?
up.
Like what does it mean?
I don't know off the top.
All
But
right,
the
so
devil, right?
Lucifer, no, Lucifer is just, Lucifer is just the bearer of light.
Wow.
It just bears light. That's all it is. Now, too much light is too much light. And that is when you get to the ends of polarity, back to the Hermetics, you're at the devil aspects of things. I have too much light, too much dark.
Hmm.
Ahriman is the devil or the god, if you wanted to call it, of darkness.
So too much dark, too much light. Okay,
That's your devil.
got you.
Okay. And then you have Abraxas that sits in the middle that holds these things together, which is why,
Separates them.
yeah, which is why Abraxas like has these things where it's holding the light and the dark together. It's like, okay, I'm gonna hold this and be the threshold to be able to connect the light. And then the light, if you know anything about the Kabbalah or Jewish mysticism, the light is what they call not Malhut, but it's God dang it, I lost the name of it. But the light comes in, okay, Keter. Keter is the light. And Keter flows all the way through these different spherot and lands in Malhut, which is the vessel that holds the light. So you have two entities that are at the ends of the spectrum, no matter what religion you get into, and this is light and dark. And the purpose of it is everything keeps balance and connects these things in flow. All right. So the Ahriman that we have never heard of, which is the god or the devil of this material world, is literally here that you've never heard of on purpose to like people serve this thing and do things with it, and it allows you to attain material wealth, right? Now it tells you that Lucifer, the thing that brings light in, is the devil. So like, hey, don't listen to this thing. If you don't want to get too much light, that's too much for you. And we'll call that Satan if we want to, just so we can like put another lens on it. And now all of a sudden it's disconnected you from actually being able to pull the light into your life. And the God of the threshold, which is Abraxas, they also call Jesus, Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness,
Hmm.
the Messiah, is the balancing act of bringing those things together. So if you have too much duality and you're not in balance, what happens is that you're either one way or the other. You're chasing the light. And you're like some of these like spiritual bunnies that are out there just losing their mind and have no integration. Over here, you're too damn serious and you're like serving this god
Material
devil
world.
of the
Yeah,
material world, right? And even America's built that way. Like LA is like super light, New York is super dark, super material. Like these things come together kind of in the middle. It's a whole, you can look at it
that's
geologically and
crazy.
you see it show up, right?
That's crazy.
It's wild. But when we start to, and this goes into the next thing, when you start to love the light and you start to love the dark and you start to become the thing of balance and you say, hey, get behind me and you're going to serve me, then the light and the dark start to serve you and you become the leader of it. And if you look at the Trinity, I'm a drawer apparently. Not like Nero on his whiteboard, but
Yo, he's dope, man. He's dope.
oh yeah, I
I don't
love
know
him.
how I found him. He's dope, but I gotta have a comment with him. He's dope.
Yeah, yeah, we met a while ago. But I take this is how it's all supposed to work. This little thing here, okay, this vessel here.
Yeah,
On the top of it, you've got the mother, and you've got the father, and you've got the child. This is your
yeah.
Trinity, okay?
Hmm.
The light comes in like this, okay? And it ends up hitting right there. You see that? So the light's
Hmm.
coming in, and that's the vessels. No accident. This looks like a womb, okay?
True.
Where things come in. We, as the child at the bottom of this, are supposed to lead the mother and the father in this
Mm.
world, okay? We are supposed to, now we were given life by it, but once we create balance, understand the correspondence, the laws of the universe we just talked about, because the child is the correspondence of the father and the energy coming together. The mother is the energy, the father is the mind. That brings into the child, and the child is the thing that's holding those things and creating correspondence, and through balance disseminates it out into the world. Okay. And it is to have enough awareness off of the balance of this material world in order to then create more energy back to the feedback loop to the mother and the father. And then what happens is once you give the feedback loop off of the balance of this world, the mother and the father, full of infinite energy, eternal energy, pass it right back to you. You become the alchemist, and this starts to cycle through you. And all of a sudden, you permeate it into humanity.
I thought about that on so many like when you're explaining it, I thought about it on like a physical way of like taking the trauma from your parents, shifting it into the greater good, and then your greater goodness pretty much transcends them because then they become awakened or aware in
Yep.
a sense of consciousness, and now it becomes like this never ending circle
Yeah.
basically of that's deep. Yo, that was deep. That was deep.
Yeah. And that's the kicker. Like, we are to, this whole thing here, like the yin yang and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Once you get this together and you are the arbiter of the balance of all these areas and keeping them in balance, and every bottom one of the four principles of the Hermetics here, all right, which is just the rhythm of your life, the polarity and duality that exists, the karma that's becoming the cause creator, and gender. These things start to become imbalanced. You then start passing information back into the divine, and you get rewarded like crazy. And that whole thing literally is the flow.
That's crazy. That's some
Yeah.
magic right there.
Bro, it's nuts. And so, like, the 7 days of the week are your code for that. Literally, every day of the week that you go through, there's something you're supposed to do Monday through Sunday. Okay. It's not an accident. Even the Christian church knew about this. There's like an entire liturgical calendar of how they map creation of things that we do. And they've embedded holidays and Thanksgiving and Lent and all this other stuff that we kind of passively do it in order to keep the balance of humanity. We just mindfully do it, mindlessly do it.
Yeah.
If you know how that calendar works, and you also know how to activate the days of the week, each month of the year, and all the code that's associated with it, you pierce the veil, and then you start to receive that information, and you become,
Abundant.
yeah, wildly abundant. But you're just like, you just know how to work with it. Like, nothing, you will mess up, but you won't stay there, right? You will like start to create your reality, and we will. What I know that is happening is that when we start seeing, like, this is going to sound crazy to people, but I'm okay with it. When we start seeing like UFOs and aliens and things along those lines, they are us. Okay. They are us in a frequency being coming back to help us remember what we are.
Mhm.
Okay. And when we start moving in frequency, because we are here in this like Goldilocks zone that Terrence talks about and other things, we have this convenience of working to figure it out, but there's no time. There's just us remembering how to become beings of frequency, move telepathically, and start to vibrate at a certain frequency, that at which point we start moving through space and time. Because space and time are the easy dimensions to work from. First three dimensions are space, the fourth dimension is time, and then you get into spirit. We feel like we have to go through space and time to understand spirit, but we came in this world spiritual,
Mm.
right?
You dropping
And
bars, bro.
so, so with that, when we understand how to become spiritual beings, which is what I just showed you in that little chart, and we become the child as a remembrance of the divine mother and father, and we start to create balance in our life, we move in a frequency, and when we do it together, we collectively change like our physiology. Like if I showed you a picture of me literally 6 years ago, I don't look like the same human being.
For real?
Dude, let me see if I can pull it up. It's
That's
like not
crazy.
even not even the same human.
That's
Um,
crazy.
here, see if I can pull this thing. But you'd be like,
You
what
gotta
the
show
hell?
the people. Yeah, facts.
Yeah. Here. All right. There. I don't know if you can see that. That's me.
That's you?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That does look totally different, bro. That looks like a totally different person. What the
Totally different human being.
wow,
Face
what the fuck?
structure, the whole vibe.
Everything. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so
Wow.
you physiologically will change. My voice sounded different. My
Mm.
life looked different. Everything was different. Yeah. So once you have the ability to start to change your frequency, everything outside of you will start to change. The world will shift. We start to move at a different frequency. And these beings that come and visit us are just examples of what we could potentially turn into. And people are like, I don't want to look like that. I mean, fucking, hey, you won't care how you look.
You don't know how you look.
Yeah, you know, exactly. You really don't know how you look. That's a whole
Nah,
other thing.
that's
You can't see
facts.
yeah, you can't see your own eyes, you know?
Facts.
So okay, so the last thing on this is that once you start to go through that balance, there's a thing that we start to recognize that has been the biggest unlock for me. And a lot of people are like, they get it and they don't get it. In order for us to eradicate all the trauma in our life, we have to understand like where trauma came from. So I was like, oh, I started to solve my mother and father trauma. Then I got to that and I'm like, oh, I got past life trauma. And I got to that and I got generation, I got slavery trauma. I've got all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck. Then I go further back. Where'd that come from? And then so you keep playing whack-a-mole to go through the cause and effect game, right? Then I ended up back at like Adam and Eve, and I'm like, well, where's the story go before that? And then it's like, well, then God created. Okay, well, what was the need for creation? Why did God need to create? Right? If you know yourself so well, then there never is a need to create. You create off of imagination, experience, and a little hesitation to have an experience. So if I'm like, oh, I need to create something, it's because I don't have it. I don't have an understanding of something. So now, if that's the case, then God hesitated at some point in order to have an experience of itself. And that is the original trauma. All right. So the questioning of itself was the original trauma.
So God was insecure in a sense. So that's the original trauma.
That's the original trauma, the original sin. So then what?
Wow.
Okay. So then what do we need to heal?
Ourselves.
Well, that, like we go back to that and we see God as fallible. We see God as one that hesitated. We see God as the God that in that moment in time that didn't know itself. And we go back to God and we say, God, I forgive you for that.
So
I
we need
love you
to
for
heal
that.
God in a sense.
And we don't do it for God's healing because God's already done. God's figured it out. God's like, I got this. Like God went through God's journey by creating us through infinite space and time and all things that ever existed. But now our thing is that we carried that trauma and that story because we never looked back at God and said, God, I love you. I forgive you. And thank you for creating everything that ever existed through the hesitation of yourself.
I get
Okay.
it now. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. And we still forgive it for ourselves. All forgiveness is only for us, not for the other. So, and then when I forgive God, I'm not forgiving God for that whole thing that created the childhood sexual abuse, that created the incarceration, that created the suicide attempts, that created, the moments of insecurity where I feel like I can't tell like my wife everything sometimes, like even to as of today. I look at all of that and I say, God, I forgive you. And then through that, it all starts to dissipate.
So
Right.
you skip so instead of just going directly to the small traumas, you went directly to the source of trauma just in general, and then that went
Healed it
down
all.
like a down effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, yeah. And most people are like, how dare you?
Yeah, but they,
God got it wrong. And I'm like, it wasn't wrong. God got it right. God was like, oh,
yeah.
we wouldn't be here without.
But you took it personal.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We took it personal. We
Yep.
held on to it. But God doesn't look at it as right or wrong. God just creates the same way that God creates evil and good in a sense. God just created,
Yeah.
right?
And it's for our experience for us to be able to hold it, alchemize it as God has alchemized it for us. God alchemized all of that for us to be able to move in love. And now it's for us to be able to alchemize all of it for God to feel the love back. Right? There's
Tough.
nothing more that we want in the world than when I create a child for the child to love you back. And then what we do is we pass all our trauma on to the child gets pissed off and doesn't love us.
Mm.
Okay. And when the child finally figures it out and the child's like, you know what, my parents did the best they could and they love me and I forgive them. What ends up happening, the child comes back and then sees us and then they change the frequency of the parent. And the parent and the child now have a relationship again. No different than with us with God. It's God created us, passed all the stuff off that it wasn't intended as trauma for it to do its best that, like, whatever it was that it was creating, as you see the story evolve biblically in ancient times and so on and so forth. And our job is just to look at it and be like, okay, God, I've done the work. I figured it out. I love you. Let's merge back together. That's it.
That's tough, bro. That's like I like that's a great way to like really really think of it, bro. Like I get why people might be offended and think that it's blasphemous, but those are simple thinkers, no offense, but I think that once we strip off that title, like the subconscious idea of what God is, I think that once we strip that off, I think then we can understand how to, like you said, forgive God to heal myself, to like forgive me
Yeah.
basically. So I think that that's powerful, bro. I haven't never heard that spin on it. That's tough, bro. That's super super tough because most people, back to what I said, is most people heal trauma through small steps, but to jump directly to that, then you could slowly get rid of everything.
Yeah.
So
The time I first heard it was when Jesus said, forgive them, God, for they not know what they do. Who is them and they? It wasn't the
ooh,
people who threw him on the cross.
shit.
Forgive them, God. Them, God. It's the them God, right? All of the gods that ever existed, everything else, for they not know what they do. God, I forgive you because you didn't know what you did when you created all of this,
You
right?
didn't know it would be this way.
Yeah, but I know, but I now see you and I love you and I forgive you and let's go.
That's
That's
beautiful,
that,
bro.
that's that grand unification.
That's beautiful. Yeah, this is powerful. I want to thank you for this. Like today, this is tough. I don't know how we got this far, but this is
Yeah,
tough, bro. This has been a very, very powerful conversation. So I
I
know you
appreciate
gotta
it.
go soon. I got some
Yes.
things I gotta do. Um, before we end, I have all my guests do it. Um, I need a book that you recommend and one
Yeah.
powerful quote of the day to end us off with. If you got
Mm.
more than one book, you can drop it too, but just
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
you recommend.
I mean, I just go with this. Read this thing. The Universal One. It ain't easy, but it will open your mind to understanding how light moves, a different way of seeing the world. If you like study, like listen to the Terrence Howard podcast with Joe Rogan, it'll help you understand his position a little bit differently. So I would say that. Um, and then a quote of the day, like my quote or any quote.
Any quote. It could be you if
Oh,
you want. It don't
okay,
matter. Oh yeah, plug in your website and everything too.
okay. um, so on the quote, I had one, and then now I want to move it. I'm going to move it.
You should just drop both.
Yeah, yeah. I think we had a shit ton of quotes in this thing,
We did,
but
but
yeah, I mean, forgive. What I would just say is that forgiveness is a personal process. It's not for the other person, and don't use your expectations of how you've been created in order to measure and monitor how forgiveness is working. Just know it from within.
Bars.
Yeah, I'll sit with that one. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Man, I just want to say thank you to anyone who's watching this episode. I want to say we thank you. We appreciate you. If you enjoyed this message, if you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you hit a like button, a subscribe button, and share it with your friends and your family. And until next time, peace, love, and light. Big swim.